Words often have a fanciful story. Once upon a time, a funny word appeared in the English language: WYSIWYG. It is an acronym that is a lexeme formed from the initial letters of words or phrases pronounced as a single word and not letter by letter. And in this way, the acronym differs from the abbreviation, like the BBC.
They're initialisms, a bunch of initials. Acronyms are initialisms you pronounce like a word. Scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. You can pronounce scuba. Fubar, fucked up beyond all recognition. Sarmodi, Siegfried and Roy, masters of the impossible. Initialisms you can't really say. FBI, IBM, WTF. It just doesn't work. So please, friends, recognize the difference between acronyms and initialisms.
So, WYSIWYG is an acronym for what you see is what you get. It goes back to the 1970s, and at that time it circulated among a very few computer specialists. When working with text editors, it was sometimes difficult to understand how much what we saw in front of us on the monitor screen would correspond to what we would get at the output of the printer, that is, when printing. Before the adoption of WYSIWYG techniques, text appeared in editors using the system's standard typeface and style, with little indication of layout, margins, spacing, etc., and users were required to enter special non-printing control codes, now referred to as markup code tags, to indicate that some text should be in boldface, italics, or a different typeface or size. In this environment, there was very little distinction between text editors and word processors. All in all, initially it was a word from computer slang, the so-called professional jargon. There are many such words among people of different jobs. Then, with the spread of computer technologies, at that time rather unsophisticated ones, it got actively used by all the dummies. By the time I was an exchange student at Oxford, of course I'd been familiar with the words, but I first heard it in a live colloquial speech under very romantic circumstances. I once was having my lunch at a pub called the Brewdog on the corner of Cowley Road and Princess Street. I couldn't afford a very rich meal because I was short of money, and I ordered sausages. What the charming waitress brought me didn't upset me, but rather made me laugh. The sausages were so small that the waitress smiled at me and whispered, "WYSIWYG." After a while we started dating, and every time Anne got angry with me or we had a bit of a fight, I would say WYSIWYG to her, and we would make up, because I told her that there was a saying in Russia that literally sounds like the eyes saw what they bought. It's been a long time, and I'm sure Anne wouldn't be offended by me telling you about our WYSIWYG password. On the whole, it's not surprising that the word WYSIWYG began to be used in such different areas. In general, it is something to do with compatibility, either technical or psychological. WYSIWYG.
Gonna keep on walking forward.